Salvete omnes. This is I.25 commentarii de Bello Gallico liber primus, chapter 25. And Caesar writes, Caesar primum suo, deinde omnium ex conspectu remotis equis, ut I.25 omnium periculo, spem fugae toleret, cohortatus suos proelium commissit. We begin with Caesar, Caesaris, masculine. Subject, Caesar, ya boy. So he did something. Primum means first. It's an adverb. So first or firstly. Suo from suus his own, her own, its own. It's the reflexive possessive adjective. It has the su part. So you take the su part and you can draw an arrow back from su to Caesar, the subject. Then the o part, the ending part, well, that's going to agree with a noun. And it's going to agree with what? Just leave that there for a second. We'll come back to it. Deinde. Deinde is an adverb meaning then. You could also translate as next or second, because here we have primum, firstly, Caesar did something. Then he's going to do something else, or then something else happened. Omnium. Omnium, genitive plural, masculine. It could be any gender, but here it's going to be masculine, of omnis, omne, all, every, or everyone. Here it's going to be of all. And it's going to be possessing both the conspectu and the equis in this part, contained within the commas. Ex, preposition, mean out of, so moving out of somewhere. And it takes the ablative of separation, so conspectu, us, masculine, sight. So out of the ablative singular separation, the sight of everyone, out of everyone's sight, remotis equis. Here we have an ablative absolute. We have the verb removeo, removere, removi, remotus. And here we have perfect passive participle. Perfect passive participle modifying equis from equus, e masculine, meaning horse. Ablative, plural, masculine, ablative absolute. So with the noun participle, with the horses having been removed or having been taken away. Probably best to say removed, because we're going to use take away for toleret. So with the horses removed, and they were removed ex conspectu, out of the sight of everyone, and they were everyone's horses. With everyone's horses removed out of everyone's sight, or you could say with everyone's horses removed out of sight. Then, after removing everyone's horses from sight, what are we going to do with that suo? It's kind of just hanging out there. Suo is actually agreeing with an implied equo. So the suo equo, go ahead and write equo if you want right here, ablative, singular, masculine. It's also going to agree with an implied remoto. It is parallel structure with remotis equis. It's just Caesar didn't feel like writing suo equo remoto with his own horse having been taken away first. Then with everybody else's horses having been taken out of sight. So first his own horse was removed from sight, and then everybody else's horses were removed from sight. So he took away everyone's horses. No one's on horseback now. Why is that? Don't know. If only we could read on. Ut. Ut introduces us to this adverbial purpose clause. So this is going to explain why he did this. Why did he do this thing? So that, for the purpose of, ut. And then we should follow up with a subjunctive verb. I.25 omnium periculo. I.25 from the verb aequo, aequare, which means to equalize, to make equal. So aequus the adjective. This is the verb form, to equal, to make equal. Omnium, once again, is genitive plural masculine of omnis omne, and periculo from periculum e neuter. With the danger of everyone having been equalized, another ablative absolute. After equalizing everyone's danger, because remember, you can take an ablative absolute, that training wheels translation of with the noun participle, and draw it out into something more elegant, like a temporal clause, or a causal clause, or a concessive clause, or even a conditional clause. Here it probably works best as a temporal clause. With everyone's danger having been taken away or equalized, after equalizing everyone's danger. Spem fugae toleret. Spem from spe feminine, hope, the accusative direct object of toleret, and then fugae, the genitive of fuga I feminine, flight. Hope of flight, toleret, from tolo tolere sustuli sublatus, to lift away or to take away. So this is a third person singular imperfect active subjunctive. It's subjunctive because of the adverbial purpose clause introduced by ut, and the subject is Caesar. Why did he take away his own and then everybody else's horse from sight? So that with the danger of everyone having been made equal, he might take away a hope of escape. It's easier to escape from a battle if you are riding a horse, as opposed to if you are trying to escape on your own two legs. So, we're going to make everyone's danger, everyone's risk or peril in this battle, I.25, equal. We're going to equalize everyone. Everyone's going to be on foot. No one is going to be able to run away quickly on a horse. Cohortatus. This is a perfect passive participle, but please translate it actively because cohortor, cohortari, cohortatus sum is a deponent verb. Hortor, hortari, hortatus sum means to urge or encourage, but cohortor, to cum hortor, really urge or encourage. This means to not just exhort or urge, but to urge on with a speech. Usually means with a speech. The rousing few words of action. Cohortatus, nominative singular masculine to agree with Caesar. So having encouraged an accusative with a speech. Suos, from suos aum, his own, its own, like suo up there. Once again, you can circle the su, draw an arrow to the subject, Caesar, and then the os will refer to whatever Caesar is possessing. His own, there's an implied viros here, his own men, his own milites, his troops. It's the direct object of cohortatus. Having encouraged his own men with a speech, the with a speech part is contained in the prefix co on hortor. Proilium commissit. Proilium e neuter, battle, is the direct object accusative of commissit. Committo, committere, commissi, commissus. The idiom is to proilium committere, to join battle. It's that moment where the two armies run at each other and then clash in the center, to join battle. It's the main verb. This is the main clause. The main clause is Caesar joined battle. That's it. Caesar proilium commissit. He joined battle. All this other stuff are the attendant circumstances, the reasons, the setting, the time, the location of the main clause. What's going on around the main clause? So first, with his own horse, and then with everybody else's horses removed from sight, so that with the danger having been equalized, he might bear away a hope of escape. He then having encouraged his own men, joined battle. Remember, you can translate those ablative absolutes as other types of clauses. Just make sure you get the right type. So first, after he removed his own and then everybody else's horse from sight, so that, having equalized everyone's danger, he might take away a hope of battle. And so, after giving a rousing speech to his men, he joined battle. Optime. Milites loco superiore pillis missis facile hostium phalangam perfragerunt. So milites, nominative plural masculine of miles milites, could be the accusative, but it is the nominative. The soldiers, we're talking about the Romani, the Romans. Remember, each Roman soldier carries 2 or 3 pila, a javelin. Javelin has a weighty and heavy head. It's pretty thin in the middle, and it's designed to bend or break upon impact, so it cannot be hurled back with ease. It also has another reason for bending this way, which we are about to find out. So the milites loco superiore. This is like an ablative of location, or we could say even sort of an ablative of separation. It means from the higher ground, from a superiore comparative, from a higher place, on the higher ground. The soldiers have the high ground. It's over, Anakin. The soldiers from the high ground, pilis misis, this is the usual phrase for to chuck the javelins, to discharge a volley. Pilis, pilum e neuter is that kind of javelin that the Roman soldiers carry. Misis, from mitto, mittere, misi, missus, to throw, to send, like a missile. Heads up, here it comes. It's coming your way. Pilis misis, ablative absolute, with the pilis misis, with the noun participle, with the javelins having been thrown, with a volley having been discharged. Having discharged a volley, having thrown their javelins, having sent their javelins, hurled their javelins from the higher ground, what then did the soldiers do? After hurling their javelins from the higher ground, the soldiers facile, hostium phalangam, perfragerunt. They facile easily, the adverb form of facilis facile. Notice it's not faciliter, which is what you would expect, but it's actually the accusative form facile, because all accusatives are adverbial. Looking at you, primum. Hostium, from hostis, hostis masculine, this is the genitive plural masculine, of the enemy. It's the genitive of possession, and it's possessing the phalangam. Phalangam from phalanx, phalangus. It's a Greek word, it's feminine. A phalanx, a phalanx, refers to a closely packed group of soldiers where the shields overlap and interlock in order to provide for maximum protection. Perfragerunt, from perfrango. It's not just frango, frangere, fregi, fractus, fractus, fracture, to break. It's perfrango. It's to break through, per, through, to thoroughly break, to scatter, or to shatter. So with the javelins having been thrown, discharged, or sent from the higher ground, the soldiers easily broke apart. They broke through. They scattered the phalanx of the enemy phalanx. They would start a battle by hurling the 2 or 3 javelins that they have, soften up the enemy a little bit before then they gladiis districtis. Ea disiacta, gladiis districtis in eos impetum fecerunt. The ea, from is ea id, it's a pronoun. The antecedent is the phalangam, where phalangam, singular feminine, accusative. That means that a pronoun that agrees with it must be singular and feminine. It doesn't have to be accusative. They don't have to agree in case. Ea is an ablative because we are in another ablative absolute. With it being the phalanx, with it disjecta from disiccio. That has to do with another to be scattered. So with it having been disjecta, thrown apart, to disjaccio, to throw into different directions, scatter, to break asunder. With it, with the phalanx having been broken apart, gladiis districtis, another ablative absolute. There are so many in this passage. Gladiis, gladius e masculine sword, ablative plural masculine, districtis from distringo. This is the usual verb for to draw your sword. Gladium distringere. With swords having been drawn, another ablative absolute. With the phalanx having been broken apart and swords drawn, in eos impetum fecerunt. In plus the accusative, impetum facere. To facere impetum means to make an attack, with impetum being the accusative direct object. And then it takes an in or even an odd plus the accusative, usually in eos, upon the accusative them, with them being the Helvetios, the Helvetians. They made an attack upon them. You can just say they attacked them, or they made an assault upon them. After scattering the phalanx and drawing their swords, they made an attack upon them. Gallis magno ad pugnam erat impedimento, quod pluribus eorum scutis, uno ictu pilorum transfixis et conligatis, cum ferem se inflexisset, neque evalere neque sinistra impedita satis commode pugnare poterant, multi, ut diu iactato brachio praeoptarent, scultum manu emittere, et nudo corpore pugnare. Nice sentence. So the Gallis, from Gallus a Gallic thing or a Gallic person, someone from Gaul. So these are the Galli, for the Gauls. And he's speaking about the Gauls in general. This is going to be dative plural. Could be ablative, but it's dative. Magno, from magnus big, large, great. Dative or ablative, singular, masculine, or neuter. Ad, preposition, takes the accusative, to or towards. Can also, like it here, it means in reference to. In reference to pugnam. In regards to pugnam. Pugna, I, feminine, accusative, in regards to fighting. Gallis, for the Gauls, ad pugnam, in regards to fighting. Erat magno impedimento. Caesar sounds quite smug here. Erat, third person singular, imperfect active indicative of sum esse fui futurus, was. There was in existence now wait a minute. You're probably thinking there needs to be a nominative subject because we have an erat, which is a linking verb, and that should take not an accusative direct object, but a predicate nominative, but I see none of these things around here. Indeed, you do not. In fact, you're not going to get a nominative until you get to here. And there's another one here. In fact, this is the main nominative of the sentence, all the way down here. Now, there's no nominative here because we have a double dragon. Did I say dragon? I meant dative. A double dative. What's a double dative? Well, it's a dual dative construction. There's a dative of purpose and a dative of reference. The dative of purpose will be a form that's somewhat frozen in the dative. Praesidio, impedimento, auxilio, curae. It means for the purpose of being this thing. It acts as this thing. There is something that acts as an impedimento, as an impediment, as a hindrance. Double datives are usually, or at least datives of purposes, are usually used with a form of sum. So that's it here. There was something that was for this. It was acted for a hindrance. And Magno agrees with impedimento, so it's a great hindrance. Something acts as a great hindrance for there's another part of a double dative. Dative of purpose is the Magno impedimento. Gallis would be the dative of reference. For whom, in reference to whom, is this dative of purpose a thing? For whom is something a great hindrance? This is a great hindrance for Gallis, for the Gauls, in regards to fighting. In regards to fighting, there was a great hindrance for the Gauls. There was something that acted as a great hindrance for the Gauls. What was that thing? Quote, it's this. This is the thing that acts as a great hindrance for the Gauls. It was a great hindrance for the Gauls that pluribus eorum scutis. Pluribus, this is the comparative of multi-I-a. So the plural of multus a-on. Because we're dealing with something that's plural. We're dealing with plural scutis, from scutum e neuter. That's the big Roman shield. Hemispherical. Looks like a rectangle when you look at it straight on, but it wraps sort of around the body. It's curved. Has a big boss, as in a large metal hemisphere in the center of it to help distribute force. Pluribus scutis, with many, or very many, or not very many, with quite a few, scutis, with quite a few eorum of their shields. Here in scutis, it's referring to the Gallic shields, not the Roman shields. But the Roman shields, they offer quite a lot of more protection than the Gallic shields. The Gallic shields typically are roundish. And remember, they're in a phalanx formation, so they built some sort of shield wall. And Caesar is remarking that in a fight, this is the thing that acts, dative of purpose, as a great hindrance for the dative of reference Gauls, in that with ablative absolute, with quite a few of their shields, transfixis et conligatis. Transfixis, transfigo, which means to be fixed or pierced, trans, through, et conligatis. First, they're transfixed, pierced by uno ictu, by a single, unus aum ictus us masculine, by a single blow, by a single strike, pilorum, of the javelins. And not just pierce, but conligatis, a ligament binds, cum, binds together. So they were bound, or held fast, fastened together. Because with quite a few of their shields pierced and bound together by one blow of the javelins, or by a single cast of the javelins, meaning that when they create a phalanx, the Gauls put their shields, they overlap each other in order to offer more protection. When the Romans throw their pila, the pilum sails through the air, and if it happens to pierce a Gallic shield in a shield wall, where the shields overlap, if the javelin, the pilum, pierces both where they overlap, and then holds fast, not just transfixis pierces them, but conligatis holds them together, well, you can't take the shields apart. Now they're bound together with a rather large, it's like a 6.5-foot javelin, holding it together, having pierced it and also bound together. So that cum, when the ferrum e neuter, if you've always wondered why Fe on the periodic table is iron, Latin is why, ferrum, this is iron. Se inflexisset. Inflecto is a transitive verb in Latin, to bend. But in English, in English, to bend can be either transitive or intransitive. You can bend a thing, an accusative thing, and that's a transitive verb, or you can bend, as in just bend yourself. So that's intransitive, where it doesn't really take a direct object in the accusative. In Latin, inflecto, bend, is a transitive verb and must always take a direct object in the accusative. And that's what the se is doing here. It had bent itself. In English, you can just say bent. When the iron bent itself, when the iron had bent, so when the javelin went through the overlapped shields, and then the iron bent because it's pretty thin, the head is heavy, the shaft is thin, bends, it's very difficult to ewellere, to pluck out or to pull the javelin out of the shields because it's bent. Now it's just a big mess of iron and wood. So neither to pluck out nor sinistra impedita. With sinistra, this is your left hand, because the Gauls they hold their shield in their left hand, swords in their right, or weapons in their right. With their left hand, impedita, impedio, impedire, impedivi, impeditus, like impedimento is the noun form of the verb impedio. With their left hand impeded, because they can no longer withdraw their shield. Their shield is now stuck to their neighbor's shield, because it's got this javelin stuck in it. So when they try to bring their shield back to cover their own body, when they try to move away from their neighbor, they're unable to. So that when the iron bends itself, they're not able to pluck it out, nor are they able to, with their left hand impeded, to pugnare satis commode, to fight commode, conveniently enough. And then poterant is our verb here. They were neque. They were able to neither pluck it out, meaning the javelin, the pilum, nor to fight conveniently enough with their left hand impeded. So with all of that, that's the quote. That is the thing that acts as an impediment, not just an impediment, a magno, a great impediment to the Gauls. So the Roman soldiers, what do? They start out by throwing these javelins. They easily break apart the Gallic phalanx. With the Gallic phalanx having been scattered, the Romans draw their swords. Remember, the Romans are all right-handed as well. They hold their swords in their right hand, their shields in their left. That means that the Roman right side, as well as the Gallic right side, is going to be the weak side, the open side, the latus apertum, the exposed flank, because the shield's on their left. Then the Roman soldiers attack them. Well, what about the Gauls? What do the Gauls do? Well, in regards to the Gauls and in their method of fighting, there was a great impediment. There was a great hindrance in that when several of their shields were pierced and held fast by a single blow of the javelins, well, when the iron had bent itself, they were able to neither pluck out the javelin nor to fight conveniently enough with their left hand impeded. I would then put a semicolon here. And the result of all that is multi. Many, ut, so that diu iactato brachio praeoptarent, scutum manu emittere, et nudo corpore pugnare. They Preoptarent is your verb that takes complementary infinitives emittere and pugnare. With the result of this, ut, so we have a result clause, adverbial result, should take the subjunctive. It do, third person plural, imperfect active subjunctive, preopto, preoptare. So that many, meaning many of the Gauls, they opted, they preferred to throw away, or to throw the shield away, and there's the emitto, emittere, from their hand, and to fight with, this is not naked body, this is not nude body, this just means shieldless, unprotected body, with unshielded body. Diu jactato brachio, ablative absolute, with their brachio, their arm, having been tossed about for a long time. So if you get the image here, you're a Gaul, and you're ordered to form a phalanx, a shield wall. So you hold up your shield with your left arm, and your neighbor puts his shield, overlaps it on the edge of your shield, and so on and so forth to make a wall. The Romans throw the javelin. Javelin sails through the air, punches through, boom. Your shield overlapping your neighbor's shield. Doesn't hit you or your neighbor. Fantastic. All right, awesome. Ha, stupid Romans, you did, wait, oh no. I can't take my shield back because it's now stuck to my neighbor's shield. Oh, well, that's easy. We'll just pull the javelin. Oh, wait, we can't because it bent, and we can't bend it back, and this is stupid, and then they're shaking their arms, they're shaking their left hands and trying to get rid of this javelin. Stupid freaking javelin. Oh my gosh. Instead, after throwing their arms around for a long period of time, they preferred to throw their shield from their hand, meaning to cast off the shield, and to fight shieldless. Easier to kill a man if he don't got a shield, say the Romans. So the pila are used to not just soften up the enemy, but also to get rid of as many shields as possible, because it's easier to hack them up. So we have something like, there was a great hindrance for the Gauls in respect to their fighting, in that when several of their shields were pierced and held fast by a single blow of the javelins, when the iron had bent, they were able to neither pluck it out nor to fight with left hand impeded, fight conveniently enough with left hand impeded. With the result of this was many, after shaking their arms about for some time, preferred to cast the shield from their hand and to fight shieldless, to fight sine scudo, to fight without shield, unprotected body. Optime, tandem. Finally, at last. Tandem is like exasperated. Oh my gosh, finally. Finally, at last, at length, vulneribus defessi, et pedem referre, et quod mons sub erit cercitel mille passuum spatio, eo se recipere coiperunt. At last, vulneribus, the ablative plural neuter of vulnus, vulneris neuter. Defessi, from defessus on, means tired, tuckered out, refers to the Gauls. Tired, wearied, fatigued by the ablative of cause, or means, by means of their wounds. At last, wearied by their wounds. Et, and it's correlative et. So we're going to have some verb coming up here that's probably going to complete the meaning of, or needs pedum referre to complete its meaning. Pedum referre means to literally bear the foot back. It means to retreat. Take the foot back, retreat. And quod mons, and because as there was a mons is masculine, a hill, sub eret, sub sum, meaning it's, we're just going to say eret, or yeah, as there was a, as there was a hill, quod mons sub eret, as there was a hill, as a hill lay, cerciter mille possum spatio. Remember, cerciter, around, approximately, and mille, that is the genitive plural. How do I know it's genitive plural if it's indeclinable? Because it goes with possum. A spatio, a space of mille possum, of 1,000 paces. That equals 1 mile. Because there was a hill around a mile away, eo se recipere coiperunt, and coiperunt's our main verb, and it takes the complementary infinitives referre and recipere. Eo just means thither, to that place. Which place? To the mons. Se is the direct object of recipere. It forms the idiom se recipere, which literally means to take yourself back. It, like pedem referre, means to retreat or to retire, to escape, to go away. Coiperunt, they began, or they begin. Remember that this is a defective verb. Only appears in the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect. We translate the perfect, like here, as the present. We translate the pluperfect as if it were the past, like an imperfect. And we translate the future perfect as if it were the future. At last, wearied by their wounds, they began to retreat, both to retreat and because there was a hill about 1,000 paces or a mile away, they began to retire thither. They began to go there. Capto monte et succedentibus nostris, voi et tulingi, qui hominum millibus cerciter quinque agmen hostium claudebant, et novissimis presidio erant, ex itinere nostros ab latere aperto aggressi, circumvenire, et id conspicati helvetii, qui in montem sese receperant, russus instare et proelium redintegrare coiperunt. Lots of stuff going on. Capto monte. Capio, capere, capi, captus. Perfect passive participle. Agreeing with the ablative monte. Oh my goodness, an ablative absolute. With the hill, meaning this one that was just a mile away, with this hill having been taken. After taking the hill, having seized the hill, et succedentibus nostris. Succedo, which means to go up towards. Remember, cedo means to move, and the prefix will tell you which direction you move. So they go up towards nostris, and with our men going up towards, with our men following. Present active participle. So after the Helvetians took the hill, because this is a perfect passive participle, this action is done. It's completed. It's perfect. The present active participle shows an action which is currently in play. It's currently happening. Entibus. Succedens, succedentis. And agrees with nostris. After the hill was taken, and our men were following up, the boi et the tulingi. So remember them, the boi and the tulingi, nominative plural masculine. Qui, relative pronoun, introducing a relative clause, antecedent, boi et tulingi, nominative plural masculine, all of them. Who, hominum, from homo hominis masculine, person. Millibus, this is genitive plural. Millibus, from milia, milium, always neuter, always plural. This is dative or ablative plural neuter. Cerciter, once again, we had this up here, approximately, about, this is, wow, 15, wow, that totally blanked out there. So 15, and it's indeclinable, with 15,000s of people. 15,000s of people. Remember, milia, milium, neuter is a noun. Takes a part of genitive with approximately 15,000s of people. Augmen, augmenus. This is a gathering of troops. So this is referring to the rear. So with 15,000 of troops, they claudebant. They were closing. Claudo, claudere, clausi, clausus. They were closing, third person plural imperfect active indicative, the rear of the enemy. So they made up the rear guard. And that's what this is, next part here. Look, another double dative. Novissimis is the dative of reference. Praesidio, like impedimento, is the frozen dative form. As a garrison, praesidium e neuter. I would hate to have to leave a garrison here. And then errant is third person plural, imperfect active indicative of sum esse fui futurus. They were, that's the boy in the Tulingi, who were as a garrison, acting as a garrison. Their purpose was to be a garrison, a guard for the rear. So they acted like a rear guard. They were closing the rear of the enemy and acting as a rear guard with approximately 15,000 persons. 15,000 head, approximately. Ex itinere, ex plus the ablative, iter itineris neuter. So we're from the march, from marching. It's probably best to say on marching or while marching. Nostros, noster, nostra, nostrum. Our men, there's an implied viros. It is the accusative direct object. Ab latere aperto. Ab, preposition from, away from. Latere, this is the ablative of latus, lateris, neuter, which means side, like lateral. And then goes with aperto, from aperto saum, which like an aperture is an opening. This means open. So the open side, or the exposed flank. Our men on the exposed flank, on their exposed flank, aggressi. And yes, you can see that D turn into a G, so you get double G, like aggressive. This is aggredior, aggredi, aggressus sum, which means to take a step towards. You can do so in an aggressive manner. It can mean to attack. And it's nominative plural masculine. It's a deponent verb, so please translate this perfect passive participle actively. Having advanced upon our men while marching on their exposed flank. So the boy and the Tulingi, they turn from their march and advance upon our men at their exposed flank. So remember, for the Romans, holding their shields on their left, their exposed flank is going to be on their right. So that's where the boy and the Tulingi attack them. Circumvenire, from circumvenio, circumvenire, circumveni, circumventus. To come around means to surround. Looks like it's going to be a complementary infinitive with some sort of main verb that needs this infinitive to complete its meaning. To surround. Before they surround, they attack our men on their exposed flank. Then they somehow surround them. So we get the picture here. The Helvetians retreat. They take a mountain, take a hill. They get their own high ground. The Romans follow suit. So after the hill is taken and our men were following after them, they're coming up to meet them. The boy and the Tulingi, remember them, who were closing the rear of the enemy and acting as a rear guard with approximately 15,000 persons, they advanced from their march upon our men on their exposed flank. And then they, koiperunt, we're going to need that verb, began to surround them. First they advanced upon them, and then they surrounded them. Et id conspicati helvetii, and id, is ea id, it's just one letter away from the English it, nominative or accusative singular neuter. It's going to be the accusative direct object neuter of conspicor, conspicare, conspicatus sum, another deponent verb. To spico, to see, and conspico, which means like catch sight of, to really see, take notice of. Please translate this perfect passive participle as if it were active, because it's a deponent verb. The subject we've now changed to the helvetii, and this thing, the helvetii conspicati, caught sight of. And the Helvetians, having caught sight of this thing, id, that the boy and the Tulingi are coming in to help them, what are the Helvetians doing? Qui, the Helvetians who, antecedent is the Helvetians, in plus the accusative montem, onto the hill. We're not going into it, we're not dwarves, we're going onto it, onto the hill. Se receperant. Se is just the emphatic form of se. To make this word more emphatic, we're just going to say it again and cram them together into one word. So if you think the English word at is not emphatic enough, we say at. No, we don't. Se, it's the direct object of recapere. We already saw se recapere, same thing, only now we've changed tense. This is recaperant, third person plural, pluperfect active indicative. Who had retreated, remember they had retreated or they had escaped onto the mountain, onto the hill. So the Helvetians, who had retreated onto the hill, caught sight of this thing, that the boy and the Tulingi are coming around to help them. And so they russus instare. They russus incipiemus nunc et semper. Again, always we begin again, now and forever. Again, instare, to stand in, to stand against. So they held their ground. The Helvetians who had retreated onto the hill, they're now beginning to stand their ground again, and to proelium redintegrare, to proelium e neuter battle, redintegrare, the present active infinitive of redintegro, which means to, hopefully you can see, reintegrate, which means to make whole again, to renew the battle, and koiperunt. So they began to, the Helvetians having caught sight of this thing, began to stand against, to hold their ground again, and to renew the battle. After seizing the hill, and our men followed after them, the boy and the Tulingi, who, with approximately 15,000 persons, were closing the rear of the enemy and acted as a rear guard. They, from their march, advanced upon our men on their exposed flank and began to surround them. I would then put a semicolon. The Helvetians, having caught sight of the Helvetians, who had retreated upon the hill, caught sight of this thing and begin to stand their ground again, you could say stand firm again, and renew the battle. The battle is not over yet. Romani conversa signa bipertito intulerunt, prima et secunda acies, ut victis ac sub motis resisteret, tertia ut venientes sustineret. So the Romani, what are the Romans going to do? Looks like they've been surrounded. Seems like this is the end of Julius Caesar, all the way in the beginning of book 1 out of 8. That doesn't seem right. Let's keep reading. The Romans, nominative plural masculine subject. Conversa, from converto, which means to turn. Agrees with signa, signum e neuter, sign, signal. Here it means the military standards. So bipertito is an adverb meaning on two fronts. You can see the bi there, the bi, like a bicycle. Two wheels, right? So on two fronts, the signa conversa, the military standards, having been turned, and they were turned into two fronts, intulerunt, from infero, inferre, intuli, illatus. So the Romans bore the standards on two fronts. Prima et secunda acies. Remember, where the standards go, the Roman army goes too. Standards go in one direction, the Roman army follows. We have 3 lines, right, in a triplex acies. The prima et secunda acies, the first and the second battle line, they're going to, what's their job? So that they may resisteret victis ac submotis, with the result that, actually it's for the purpose of, my apologies, adverbial purpose clause, so that they might resisto, they might oppose, resist, the dative victis ac submotis. Victis and submotis are perfect passive participles of vinco, vincere, vici, victus, and submoveo, submovere, submovis, submotus. The those having been conquered and those having been moved off or driven off. The prima and secunda acies, they bear their standards in one direction so that they might resist those who were beaten, conquered, and driven off. That refers to the Helvetians. So the first and the second battle line keep going up the hill to take on the Helvetians. Whereas the tertia, the third acies, the terta acies, which is usually kept in reserve, it's got to turn around so that it may susteneret venientes, it may susteneret, take on, withstand, the venientes, those who are venia, venire, veni, ventus, those who are coming towards them. The venientes, this is accusative plural masculine, present active participle, whereas the victis and the submotis are perfect passive participles. The Helvetians were already beaten, vinco, and they're already driven off, submoveo. So the prima and the secunda, they go forward so that they may oppose the beaten and the driven off. The third battle line wheels around so that it may withstand the attack of those coming at them, the newcomers, so that it may withstand the newcomers.